One of the common questions that I get from individuals is it possible to move on after an affair? There are a couple of specific things that I want to suggest. The first thing is something that is hard to understand. If we're going to move on, we have to actually slow down and we have to ask important questions. What happened? How do we avoid this happening again? And is it a deeper issue between us and in our individual lives that we need to address? For example, if I'm the betraying partner, I need to ask the question, how did I get to this point where I cheated on my spouse? What was happening mentally? How did I justify it? Now, some couples, they just want to move on, but the problem with just moving on is we don't ask the deep and important questions. So my first suggestion is that you slow down and take some time to ask some really difficult questions. What happened? How do we avoid it happening again? And is there something individually that we need to deal with? Just a real quick example. If I have a long sexual history of being sexual in many different ways, and I'm now saying I'm going to be committed in this relationship, how am I going to do that? What is the thing or things that are triggering me to betray my spouse, to have an affair, to be unfaithful? So we need to ask these important questions, because if we're not asking these types of questions, then we can quickly move on what Janice Abrams Spring calls cheap forgiveness. It's best if we do what she calls a genuine dance, where two people are really working to understand themselves and their relationship to avoid the repetition or it happening again. So can you move on after an affair? Absolutely. But my first suggestion, if you're going to, is to ask some really important questions. In my next video, I'm going to talk a little about some specific things you can do to move on after an affair.